This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Ivorians have voted in the country's presidential election amid opposition calls for a boycott. Tunisia investigating whether the man who killed 3 people in France had local help. And we have the latest updates from Turkey, where search and rescue efforts are ongoing following Friday's earthquake. Hello and welcome to Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Mahia Mutua in Nairobi. Also coming up, in sports, CAF Champions League semi-final deferred after Confederation President Ahmad tests positive for COVID-19. Let's begin with the latest from West Africa. Ivorians have cast their ballots in a controversial presidential vote that is being seen as a test for the country's democracy. Incumbent President Alassane Ouattara is seeking a third term in an election. 2 rival candidates have urged their supporters to boycott in protest. Ouattara was set to step aside after his second term to make way for a younger generation. But he says a 2016 Constitutional Court ruling allowed him to vie for a third term. Speaking to supporters soon after casting his ballot, Ouattara criticized the opposition for calling for a boycott.
I have just accomplished my civic duty. I ask all our citizens who love peace and patriotism to go and vote. It is an important day for democracy. I call on those who called for civil disobedience, which led to the loss of life, to stop. They should stop because Ivory Coast needs peace. These are criminal acts, and we hope that all this can stop, so that after the election, this country may continue on its course of progress, which it has enjoyed over the last few years.
Meanwhile, in Abidjan, residents came out in numbers to elect their leader. The capital city streets were largely quiet and empty, in contrast to the violent run-up to the election. Street clashes have killed about 30 people since Ouattara's announcement in August that he would be seeking another term. There were isolated cases of youths trying to disrupt the voting process, but no major incidents were reported. The government says it has deployed 3,000 soldiers and police officers who will ensure that there is peace and stability in Côte d'Ivoire throughout the polls.
I came to vote in the name of peace. We pray to God that the politicians get on with each other to achieve social cohesion, as our father Felix Houphouët-Boigny did. We want to live together in peace because there is no other alternative.
The former President Gbagbo went to TV5 and called for peace in the country, so I was not scared and was able to come and vote.
The Tunisian Public Prosecutor's Office has launched investigations to establish whether more Tunisians could have been involved in the France attack, in which 3 people were killed in Nice. The attacker has been identified as a Tunisian national. He is said to have crossed the Mediterranean illegally to reach Italian shores before then traveling to France. Adnan Shawashi now reports.
According to the suspect's family, Ibrahim El-Aisawi was a bicycle mechanic and a fuel seller in the coastal city of Sfax. Only 6 days before the attack in France, he crossed the Mediterranean on a makeshift boat and reached the Italian island of Lampedusa.
My brother spent 6 days in confinement on a boat in Lampedusa. He told my mom that he found a job in an olive farm in Italy. I heard him speaking to our mother again on the night before the attack. He said he moved to France to find a better job. I saw him speaking from the same stairs on which he was shot on Thursday. We don't understand what happened next.
The suspect's sister says the assailant was active on social media before the Thursday attack. She claims he could not have operated alone.
My brother is only 21 years old. It is impossible that he could have planned all this on his own. He arrived in France on Wednesday at 6 p.m. We talked to him on Facebook and Messenger. I do not understand how we could kill 2 people. There's something missing.
The suspect's mother says that Islam forbids killing people. Qamar is crying for the victims who died in the attack in Nice. She is also sad for her son, who has been arrested and accused of committing a horrible crime.
How did my son so quickly become a religious fanatic? How did he plan and prepare the crime? My son was never a criminal.
Article 83 of Tunisia's organic law guiding the fight against terrorism and money laundering allows the Court of First Instance in Tunis to examine terror crimes committed outside the country. The Public Prosecutor's Office at the Judicial Counter-Terrorism Division has ordered a probe into the alleged existence of a terror group known as Al-Mahdi in southern Tunisia and its potential involvement in the terror attack in Nice. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
In France, a third person has been arrested in connection with the knife attack that left 3 people dead in Nice on Thursday. Police officials say Friday's arrest is part of an ongoing investigation into people with suspected contacts with the attacker. The assailant was shot by the police and is now in critical condition in a hospital. Authorities have ramped up security efforts across France. President Emmanuel Macron has deployed thousands of soldiers to protect places of worship and schools. Officials warn that more Islamist militant attacks could take place. Still in Europe, the death toll from the earthquake that hit Turkey and Greece has risen to 37. So far, Turkey has reported 35 deaths, while Greece has recorded 2. 180 people are still trapped beneath the debris of collapsed buildings, according to the mayor of Izmir. Turkey's health minister says 243 people are receiving treatment in various hospitals. 8 are under intensive care. Rescuers are still searching for survivors in the most affected areas. Now, Sri Lanka is sending 242 containers of hazardous waste back to Britain, following a court order that said the medical waste was imported in violation of international law. The first 20 containers were loaded on Friday and another 65 will be sent within a week. They were imported in late 2017 and included rags, bandages and body parts from mortuaries. Last month, Sri Lanka shipped back another 21 containers of waste to Britain. Several other countries in the region have also recently begun to return waste imported from foreign countries. The United Nations Development Programme in South Africa has released a COVID-19 Rapid Needs Assessment report. It highlights food security, unemployment, and disruptions in basic and higher education as some of the factors that affected South Africans during the COVID-19 pandemic. Yolisan Jamela now reports.
Despite significant strides made by government to soften the blow of the COVID-19 pandemic, more still needs to be done to assist the vulnerable as the country faces a risk of resurgence. That's according to the COVID-19 Rapid Needs Assessment Report. South Africa's Social Development Department commissioned the United Nations Development Programme to conduct the research with a particular focus on vulnerable groups.
The study comes at an opportune time as our economy opens up. It will help inform our thinking and contribute to the evidence base needed for our decision.
The report reveals that the human impact of the pandemic has been devastating with huge income losses and that it is mostly adversely affecting the poorest in the country.
The report depicts that the differentiated impact caused by spatial segregation, discrimination, and marginalization is really vivid and clear. Those living in townships and informal settlements have difficulty in complying with the public health guidance and are most at risk in catching the virus. It is women who have borne the brunt of recent unemployment, as has been depicted again in the report, and it is and it is rural areas where unemployment and hunger are most concentrated.
The key recommendation includes raising the COVID-19 relief grant. The special COVID-19 grant afforded to poor households was earlier this month extended to a further 3 months.
It's a reminder that for so many inhabitants of South Africa, the social safety net that government grants provide is a vital lifeline, and the extension of grants in response to COVID-19 has enabled them to endure this crisis.
I'm hoping that this report is going to be utilized so that we can develop the right interventions and make sure that South Africa takes the next step coming out of COVID. We must be in the forefront of ensuring that this report does not end up in the shelves or does not end up gathering dust somewhere. It is a report that we need to make sure that we implement.
The launch of the report coincides with the end of Social Development Month, which is commemorated every year in October. Social Development Month marks the country's commitment to caring for the most vulnerable, particularly at these challenging times. Yulisa Njamela for CGTN in Pretoria, South Africa.
You're watching Africa Live here on CGTN. It's time for us to take a short break. Here's what's coming up. Uganda is boosting eco-tourism to save the industry from the effects of COVID-19. And James Bond actor Sean Connery passes away at the age of 90.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on Africa Live. Now, like most countries hit by COVID-19, Uganda is trying to find ways of rescuing its faltering tourism industry. With travel restrictions being lifted across Africa, the absence of international visitors is hitting the industry hard. As a result, Uganda fears it'll lose some $2 billion. Boosting agro-tourism could rescue the situation. Hilary Ayesiga now reports.
That's what is happening here. An agriculture research institute isn't an obvious tourist destination. But here, Ugandan scientists are showcasing a variety of crop and animal species.
Agro-tourism is becoming very, very critical, and people are now coming in willing to pay money to learn more about agriculture.
Agro-tourism in Uganda involves touring coffee farms, visiting fruit and vegetable farms, staying in rural bed and breakfasts, and experiencing life on a farm. Scientists here believe demonstration farms like this one will help the locals know more about their favorite foods and how they are grown. Each visitor here pays about $3 as an entrance fee, and some say it's worth every penny.
During this lockdown, we were idle, which shows, and I wanted to find something which will keep me busy. My backyard farm is small, and I'm not earning that much from it. I had to come here to see how I could improve, and I've really improved on this.
I'd never gone to the fish. Now because I came, I've gone to the fish. I found kale. I'd never known what kale is. I've seen it here. So it is very important. People should visit these places. We do a lot of mistakes when we think we are farming, and we say we are making losses, whereas it is because we don't know what to do next.
Before the pandemic, the tourism industry posted revenue earnings of over $1.6 billion. But local authorities say they are not likely to hit this target because of job losses and travel restrictions for foreign visitors.
We've lost a full financial year. That's between $1.6 billion to $2 billion, according to our projections.
Uganda receives about 500,000 local tourists at its tourism parks and sites annually. So while boosting agro-tourism could well help push that number higher, it won't make up for the massive loss of revenue from international visitors. Hilary Isga, CGTN, Mukono, Central Uganda.
Now, Muslims around the world have been commemorating the birth of Prophet Muhammad this week. The Prophet was born in 571 AD. Every year, most Muslims commemorate the event by reciting the Holy Quran or singing holy hymns. But as Yasser Hakim reports, Egypt also has a sweet addition to this annual occasion.
Egyptians crowded at a sweets shop. But they're not just any sweets. They're made specially for the Prophet Muhammad's birthday anniversary.
I buy the sweets here every year for the kids. They are fresh and prices are good. We then have lunch at home, enjoy the sweets, and then go out to celebrate. The sweets and festive mood is not a religious ritual. It's a tradition from the Egyptian culture, which always has its own flavor and unique celebrations.
There's a wide range of treats here, some with nuts, others with Turkish delight, and more varieties too. They're all very sugary, and the most popular are the sugar dolls.
There is demand this year, but not like before because of the pandemic. At this time every year, you wouldn't be able to even enter the street because it would be fully packed with people buying sweets. This company was established in 1926, about 95 years in this business. We started with 4 items like sesame and peanuts. Over the years, there were additions and development. We now produce 57 types of these special sweets.
It is made by mixing the main item like sesame or Turkish delight with a lot of sugar. Add water and lemon to it, then it is heated and left to cool in the sunflower oil. It takes only half an hour to be ready. Egyptians celebrate the Prophet's birthday in different ways. Some stay at home to recite the Quran, but others take their kids out to enjoy the holiday.
I like the occasion because I spend the day with my grandchildren who enjoy the Prophet's sweets that I bought them. My grandparents and my parents used to do the same with me, and now I have instilled this tradition to my son, daughter, and grandchildren.
But there are also special festivals that take place in many cities.
Every year I like to go to Sayeda Zainab area where they sing religious hymns, play traditional music and build mini amusement parks for kids on the day. We then go home where I listen to historical tales from my grandfather about Egypt and the Prophet. But the most important is the sweets. I love it and wait for it every year. Just had some now and it hurts my teeth.
The offensive drawings of the Prophet in cartoons in France and subsequent protests and anger have not marred celebrations here. But the coronavirus did. All festivals have been cancelled by the government in line with health and public safety measures. Streets and parks were relatively empty as most Egyptians preferred to stay at home. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
Now, screen legend Sean Connery has died at the age of 90. The Scottish actor, best known for his role as James Bond, was beloved by audiences worldwide since rocketing to fame in the 1960s. Robin Dwyer now reports.
Scottish film legend and the man director Steven Spielberg once described as one of the top 5 actors in the world, Sean Connery has passed away aged 90. He was born into a working-class family in Edinburgh in 1930 and had jobs as a milkman, butcher's assistant, coffin builder and then a model. Connery started as a bodybuilder and then his debut on the big screen came in 1954, aged 23, with a part in Lilacs in the Spring. Since then, his movie career lasted an incredible 7 decades. In the 60s, he'd starred in blockbusters such as Anna Karenina, The Longest Day and Macbeth, but it was another role that launched Connery as a suave global superstar. He was cast in the first ever adaptation of a series by Ian Fleming, James Bond. He first wowed audiences as the martini-loving British secret agent in 1962's Terence Young-directed Dr. No. Within a decade, he'd starred as the lead role in 6 Bond films and later reprised his role in 1983's Never Say Never Again. Connery famously admitted while making the 3rd movie, Goldfinger, that the Bond character was a dull, prosaic English policeman when all of the exotic touches were removed from his character. He went on to win an Oscar, 2 BAFTA Awards and 3 Golden Globes. Named by many as the greatest 007 ever, it wasn't just his acting skills that were getting him attention. His smooth demeanour meant he was a huge hit with the ladies. In fact, Spielberg has his own theory, famously saying, "From the moment Sean Connery introduced himself as James Bond, he became the man all men wanted to be, and the man women wanted." Sir Sean died in his sleep while at his house in the Bahamas, and it's understood he'd been unwell for some time. Robin Dwyer, CGTN.
And it's just about time for the sport here on Africa Live. Here's what's coming up. CAF Champions League semi-final deferred after Confederation President Ahmad tests positive for COVID-19.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Now we start off in Egypt, where the Confederation of African Football once again pushed back the second leg of the Champions League semi-final between Cairo Giants Zamalek and Morocco's Raja Casablanca on Friday. This after CAF President Ahmad tested positive for COVID-19, forcing him into isolation and his senior board members into quarantine. Here's Adel Mahroui with more.
Egypt's Zamalek and Moroccan champions Raja Casablanca's clash has been postponed again. It's only a 3 days delay in hopes that Raja could reassemble its lines after the COVID-19 infections that has swept its team. The match will be held on November 4 in Cairo.
Zamalek will suffer from that delay. They had an important 1-0 away victory against Raja. If the second leg was played on time, Zamalek would have a great advantage, especially that Raja would have been missing very strong players. I find CAF insistence to postpone the match is unjustifiable.
The final of the CAF Champions League has been pushed away as well, to be played on November 27. Egypt made the request because the original date would have coincided with the nation's parliamentary election. With Africa bracing for a second wave of the pandemic, experts are worried about the future of Africa's biggest club competition.
COVID-19 infections have created a tarnished football season. The status in Africa is becoming more complicated. Anything could happen. But at the same time, CAF could have avoided that. The Confederation Cup's semi-finals were compact and held almost back-to-back. The same would have happened in the Champions League. CAF took different steps.
Meanwhile, CAF's leadership has been shaken by the new coronavirus. The Confederation's president Ahmed has tested positive for the disease. After a week of intensive meetings in Morocco and celebrating the Confederation Cup, the shocking news will force senior board members and a decent number of CAF staff to be quarantined for 14 days. The pandemic is shaking African football. Already CAF has been struggling to keep its competitions on track. If the continent is forced into a second lockdown, Africa's new football season could get cancelled. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Ras Sidr, Egypt.
Now over to Kenya, where the country's under-20 team has on Saturday kicked off its preparations for the regional CECAFA Under-20 Championship set for the 22nd November to the 6th of December in Tanzania. According to the Football Kenya Federation, mandatory COVID-19 tests will be conducted on players and technical bench staff on Sunday in Nairobi. The Rising Stars are in Group C of the tournament alongside Ethiopia and Sudan, where the top teams in each of the three groups and one best runner-up will advance to the semi-finals of the competition. Kenya will play 2 friendly matches against Sudan next week before then departing for Tanzania. Coach Stanley Okumbi says the team has progressed well with players from the under-17 squad from last year featuring.
I think I can say now there's a good progression in terms of course, development of our players. So if you can imagine that I have like 5 players who played in under-17 last year or last season, but now they are in the under-20. That means that of course you are progressing, because you can imagine if there is no that transition from under-17 to under-20, then for me I'll say that we are doing nothing. But I can say that we are in the right track in terms of promoting players.
Further